Hey guys, welcome back. This is Troy with Cichlid Bros. In today's video, we are having one final look at the fish room before everything changes. Everyone in the 180 are getting an upgrade, so this is the last look of this tank as we know it. I wanted to take a second and just walk through each of the fish that are going to be going into the new 500-gallon plywood aquarium. I'll show some updates on the plywood aquarium, but everything is going to be set for the fish transfer in the next video, so I cannot wait for that. I think it'll be fun to dive deeper into the plans that I have down here, what's going on with the 180 and the whole fish transfer process. It's going to be awesome, so let's dive right in. So as you probably know, this is my 180-gallon acrylic aquarium with South American cichlids primarily. It is 6 by 2 by 2 feet, and I bought this about 4.5 years ago. It's been up and running. Most of these guys I had even longer than the tanks, so they're getting up there in age and they're really growing, especially the Oscar, but some of the newer guys with the Waru getting really big. I'm going to go one by one and kind of talk about which fish are going into the 500-gallon plywood aquarium and just a few interesting things about each of them. This was the biggest tank I could fit down in my basement, and I went with acrylic because it's much lighter when it's empty, so I could actually fit it down my basement stairwell. But that was the reason why I had to build the 500-gallon plywood aquarium. Any upgrade for these guys had to be a built tank down here because I wouldn't have been able to get it down my stairs. And even though these are some very large fish, there are a few in here that are going to continue to grow, especially the 3 Waru. One of them has really had a growth spurt, and they'll probably double in size if you could believe that. The Oscar even might have a couple more inches to grow, especially if he goes into that bigger tank. And I expect the bala shark to also have a bit of a growth spurt once he goes into a bigger tank. But all of these guys could have lived out their years comfortably in this tank. It is not that the tank is too small. It is just that I want to give them a bigger home. I always want to be improving and upgrading and providing the best home possible for my fish. And that was a great opportunity to do that. And I'll be able to potentially get a few more really cool tank mates with them, including the stingray. So right now there are 8 big cichlids and then the 1 big bala shark. So 9 total fish in here. I already moved some of my Geophagus, a pleco, and some others into the plywood tank that we'll see in a second. But I wanted these guys to go in last so that the smaller guys would be comfortable in the new tank. But just starting with the biggest boss of the tank, obviously is my big tiger Oscar named Nessie. Some of my only fish with an actual name that you guys provided. And this Oscar is definitely the fish I'm looking forward to seeing in the new tank the most, just because he's the biggest in this tank and he just is awesome, very personable. And I felt like a primary reason for this upgrade outside of getting the stingray was to have a bigger home for this big Oscar. And I've had Nessie for about 4.5 years. I picked him up when he was probably only an inch, and now he's well over a foot, and he's just a beast. One of my favorite all-time fish that I've kept. And speaking of favorite fish, the Severum has always been 1 or 2 on my list of favorite cichlids. And I do have Big Red here that I've had for over 5 years. And then I also have a female red shoulder Severum that I've had for 4.5 years. So they have been with me for a really long time. I love the Severum, but you might notice that one of them is missing. So one unfortunate update is you might notice that one of the red speckled Severums, the male, is no longer in the tank, and I did lose him last week. It was pretty gut-wrenching because he was so close to going into the new plywood aquarium and he just didn't make it. So he and the female Big Red have been breeding on and off in this tank. They lay eggs all the time in the back corner, and they've been fine. They would chase away the others just a little bit and protect their corner, but there was never any real aggression until about 2 weeks ago. I saw both of the Severums locking lips pretty consistently, and the next day I saw that the male just had a cut on its head and it was infected very quickly after that, and that Severum rapidly declined. I didn't even really take video footage of it just because I was trying to act and treat the tank with medication. And anytime I've lost a cichlid, it's never been one just flat out kills the other or eats one of them. It's always been an injury that's pretty big, which eventually gets infected and maybe they don't recover. And it doesn't happen very often, but occasionally it does. And usually it's centered around breeding behavior. That happened with my Geophagus steindachnerii about 5 months ago. Happened again with my Severum, so I'm super bummed about it, but I'm trying to look on the bright side that the rest of these guys will be going into their new tank, and with a bigger footprint and territory, the aggression will hopefully be even less. And I've never really had issues in this tank, it's just sporadic. And like I said, the breeding probably did it for that Severum. And next up on my list is my beautiful Geophagus spini, which coincidentally was moved from one of my other tanks due to aggression in that tank. But it's been really calm and peaceful in here. It's really fit in nicely. It sifts the sand, keeping it looking pristine, and of course has amazing color with that red, blue, awesome dorsal fins and trailers all over. It is just a gorgeous fish, and I cannot wait to see them in the plywood tank. And then next up you have the 3 Walrus, and I got these guys probably a year and a half ago, and they were about 4 inches at the time, and now they're definitely 6 to 8 inches, and they'll continue to grow. I absolutely love these guys. They're really personable. They've done really good in this small group. No aggression, but they also have that great color pattern with the red eye. I love these guys, and I can't wait to see them as well in the new tank. And before we get to my shark, let's talk about the last cichlid, the black acara. So I've had this Cyclosoma bimaculatum for about 5.5 to 6 years. It's one of my oldest fish that I currently have in my fish room, and it's been an amazing tank mate with the rest of these South American cichlids. It's not the prettiest fish. It kind of has tan, brown, blacks, occasionally maroon in its fins, but overall it's been a really good fish in here, and it's been slowly but surely getting big. Right now it's about 7 inches or so, and like I said, even though it's not a gorgeous fish like maybe the Geospini, it's still special to me because I've had them for so long. I actually bought it in the local fish store thinking it was a keyhole cichlid because it was so small all those years ago, and that little tear in its dorsal fin it had at the local fish store. So I thought that tear in his dorsal fin would actually grow back, but it never has. It kind of gives him a little bit of a unique characteristic, so it's not all that bad, and he's just been really good in this tank, and another fish that I think will be great in that 500-gallon tank. So last but not least is my Bala shark, and this is my only non-cichlid in this tank. It's just a personal favorite of mine. It's probably my favorite fish that is not a cichlid. I love that it looks like a shark, but it is really peaceful, that it's actively swimming throughout the tank all the time. I just love the look, the activity, the behavior, all of that. It's a full package for me, and unfortunately they're sold a lot in local fish stores because they have the common name of a shark, even though they are not technically a shark. But we had a little bit of fun with that years ago when we named him Bruce.
Hello.
So that's a quick rundown of all the fish in the 180 that are going to be moving into the plywood tank. Cannot wait for them to join the ones that are already in there, and to add a few other tank mates, including the stingray and maybe a couple others that I had in mind. But these guys are all going to be moving in there probably today, right after I get done filming this video. But I want to do a final look of this aquarium before things change so dramatically. I'm going to be moving all of them into my plywood tank. I'm going to be changing this tank up quite a bit and restocking it with something totally different. I'm going to be moving fish from my fish room once all that happens. So there is so much changing. I wanted to just take a second and just video log this so that I could even go back and watch some of these fish years from now. It's kind of the beauty of YouTube, is you basically have a scrapbook, a video log of all of your fish over the years. So I'll definitely come back and watch this video many years from now, hopefully when these guys are even bigger and enjoying their new home. So let's go over the plywood aquarium, see what's happening over there before coming back to the 180, and maybe even revealing some hints of what's going to be going in here and how things are going to change. So first off, this is the 500-gallon aquarium, and like I showed in the last video, it already has a few fish, some of the smaller cichlids that'll go in here, but a lot of the big guys, the Oscar, the Bala shark, the Severums, the Walrus, all of them are going to be coming in here. But I wanted some of the smaller guys in here just to get comfortable, have the Geophagus start sifting the sand and get that churning, and just get the beneficial bacteria built up in here. I have fed the tank a little bit more than I normally would, just to continuously add an ammonia source for bacteria to grow, and it is ready for the big guys. The other big update I made on this tank was cutting DIY lids for the top, which helps with evaporation, but also is really important when we have the bigger fish that are way more capable of jumping out of the tank. It is now secure on top, so they won't be able to get out. And also in the last video, I unboxed my new solar generator from Jackery, which is going to protect my basement from any power outages, hopefully any flooding, heat waves, things of that nature. Now that I have this big tank along with my others, a flood was the last thing I wanted down here. And I also mentioned that I'll be unboxing the solar panels and showing how that all worked, and then testing it on a big tank. So let's do that now. So in the last video, I unboxed a solar generator, the battery backup power, and I even tested it on my saltwater aquarium. It ran that tank, the lights, the pump, the heater, everything for about 27 hours. So I was really excited about that. And I can plug that into the wall to recharge it anytime I want. But one of the coolest things about this, and I'm really pumped about it, kind of nerding out about some solar panels. So I'm gonna unbox this, set it up, and show how it charges that generator. I'm really excited about this. And there's also a transfer switch that I'll show. So all of this is just going to be extreme protection for my aquariums. Like I said before, when Alex's basement flooded, it really freaked me out, especially having the big plywood aquarium now. I just have too many aquariums in my basement to not be protected from power outages, heat waves, or anything else. So this is going to be a huge lifesaver, and if it's ever an extended power outage, I can use this to recharge the generator without needing electricity in my house. All right, let's just see if I can pull it out straight from the box. Here we go. Got some bubble wrap around it. All right, and it's got this nice little case that you can just take off, I assume, and slide out the solar panels. These are so cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and set up this bad boy in my yard and see how long these panels take to charge the generator. Let's go. All right, so I think these are pretty simple and straightforward to set up. You just unfold them. And then they have a couple pieces on the back that you just unvelcro and you can stand it right up. So this was really quick and easy to set up, just feels like really durable material. I got it set up with the sun beaming down on it, so I'm gonna go get the power cord and the power generator. We'll get this thing charging. This is the back of the solar panel where you have your output. You just plug that in right into the power generator here. We're gonna go ahead and get it plugged in and get it charging. Okay, so we can see the input coming in and the charge with that circle going around the 0%. We're gonna wait till this is charged up, and then we're probably gonna test it on one of my bigger aquariums. So this also came with the package from Jackery, and it is the transfer switch. So this is a little more heavy duty. I'm probably gonna have an electrician, the same one that installed my outlets, install this. But this should basically kick on immediately if the power were to go out. So even if I'm not home, I don't actually have to plug in the solar generator. This thing will help with that. But like I said, I'll probably get some help to install this so it's done correctly. Everything else I got from Jackery, like the generator, the solar panels, and everything else was super easy to set up. This is a little more in-depth, but it's pretty cool. So with all of that, I think I am totally protected down here in my basement, knock on wood, but I am not trying to be like Alec and have my basement flood. So all of that should hopefully protect from anything happening with my aquariums, and especially during a power outage. So here's the plywood tank, which has been running on the generator here for about 12 hours, just solely on the generator. And that's everything, the heaters, wave makers, you name it, and we still have 43%. So really excited for this. Like I've been saying, just the peace of mind that it's going to give me with this big tank and all my other tanks. So much is going to be changing with this 180 gallon aquarium. The equipment's probably going to stay the same. I have an aqua illumination blade light, I have an FX6 and a CJ well canister, I have 2 heaters, a wave maker, all of that's going to stay the same. The substrate might stay the same, but I might take out a few of the driftwood pieces and rocks and switch those out for some different materials, and it's going to be very different from this. It will be a cichlid tank, but it is not going to be South American cichlids. It's going to be a little bit different. We have the community of fish going into the 500 gallon plywood tank, and this might be a little bit different, and it's going to be a big boy. So that is all I'm going to say about that.
And that's all I have to say about that.
But I am equally excited for that as I am for the fish transfer. But before all those changes happen to the 180, I will likely use the 180 as the quarantine tank for the new Stingray. So once these guys are moved over today, I'm basically putting in an order for that Stingray, and that video is going to be coming very soon. You might see a ray swimming in here temporarily until I get that new inhabitant or inhabitants for the 180 for the long term. So I can't wait to show all of that. It's going to be a really fun time. It was kind of bittersweet to see the changes happening in my fish room because I've kind of fallen in love with all these tanks. but I think the change is going to be for the better, and I can't wait to continue improving and upgrading and having all of you come along for the ride. So I really appreciate it. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.